are you doing, beloved?
Attention, attention, my black brothers. What I want y'all to do right now is take out the do-rag, the silky, tie it down. I want to see the waves glistening. If you got nappy hair, pick it. Don't let nobody discourage you.
Ariel.
Black boy, black boy.
Hi, sister.
Hey.
It's Black History Month, bitch.
Happy Black History Month.
Right? Oh my God. I feel like January was so fucking long.
Usually I feel that like every year, but this year I don't know if I just like had my head buried or something, but like it just didn't feel that way for me this year. Somehow I was able to get through the entire year. I mean, the entire month.
Felt like a year.
And I did not think to myself, wow, I wish this month were over. But I don't know if it's because I had a book to read the whole time and like a whole bunch of deadlines. It was busy, you know.
What book was you reading?
The Death of Vivek Oji. Which this is wild. Like this is I happen to have it right next to me.
It's a novella. It's short.
Is like the craziest thing I think like I've ever read. Yeah, no, absolutely. That is the craziest thing that I've ever read in my entire life.
What is it? Is it good? Do you recommend it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's not a bad book. It's just like it may be disturbing to some.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a ride. I have described it as a ride. It's a very easy read. Like it is not difficult to read. I honestly finished like the second half of it in like maybe 2 hours. Even with the ADHD. And it's interesting. I cried, you know. And I think the characters are fleshed out pretty interestingly. There's just some stuff I didn't expect to see. And then, like, I mean, you get a little hint of it at the beginning of what it's really about to get into, and you suspect it. But you spend a lot of the book, like, I mean, I know it's going to happen, but, like, how? And then it does, and then you're like, oh, wow, this is something.
Well, I mean, if it's the ride, some people like a good ride. Like, I love a good book that, like, I don't know what's going to happen, or it's predictable, but then it's like a switch up.
No, I mean, I think it's worth reading. I think people should read it. People should read it, but you're going to have opinions. This is a book that, like, will draw opinions out of you and has sparked some debate with my friends and I. And we have our final talk about it probably this weekend. So
it's like a book club?
Yeah, we started it last year. The first book we read last year was The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. We also read Parable of the Sower last year, and this book, Boys Come First. We did not finish the year out with a book every month. We had struggled to do it, so we're starting again this year, see if we can push through the whole year. But now we're about to start reading I'm Lying, But I'm Telling the Truth.
What you have to do if you want to do a book a month, it has to be novellas. It cannot be like long books. Like the one that you have right now is a perfect length for a month because it's digestible in a month. Like Parable of the Sower is long. And it took us a good, like, probably like 3 months because we were meeting, I think, once a week. We were meeting every Sunday. So in a week, you're supposed to have finished like a chat, like, you know, but Parable of the Sower was just too long. And it's like the dystopian one, right? Like it's a lot. I know my friends and I are reintroducing a book club again. So hopefully this one lasts.
I hope so.
Right. But what is up, everybody? It is your boy, Lord Davry.
And I'm Derwin King.
And welcome back to another episode of That Black Boy Joy, where we create a space, maintain a space, and hold a space for Black boys to be themselves and
so much more.
Yay! Oh, girl, bitch, I got a new job. I think we haven't told our listeners this.
Yes, congratulations.
I have officially started my new job, ladies and gentlemen, anybody in between. I'm super excited. The girl is in academia now, nonprofit academia. Is a whole different ball game, which I so far love it. It's only been 2 weeks, but like we have like a lot of great benefits, and I'm like super excited. Money, oh yes.
My sister's getting the coin. They make me get the coins. They make me get the coins.
She's gonna have to get kicked out of her modified pricing dwelling unit because her Section 8. It's like Section 8, but like in luxury apartments. That's what they do in Maryland.
Yeah, they have pilot programs for that.
I know, and I was like, oh, people was like, oh my God, how do you live there? I was like, don't worry about it.
Need to know basis, honey. You better get you one.
You better get you one. But no, yeah, super excited for this opportunity, and It's a big update for the listeners.
What's your favorite thing about the job so far?
Oh, so I think right now there's a lot of things. I think that like it's very slow right now, which gives me a lot of downtime to research like the mission, the values, like get an opportunity to like do chat and choose with people and stuff like that right now. At my previous jobs, I was always like thrown in immediately. So like I wasn't really able to like get a sense of like the footing while I was going. I was always doing it while I was going. And with this space, it's a lot of me just doing a lot of observation, which I absolutely love because I don't feel stress. I don't feel like so many things happening right now. So I love that. Also, we have like a cafeteria on campus, which is like subsidized food, like prices for food. So what I do is I'll get lunch and dinner and it'd be like $8. And
Oh, wow.
I'm like, that's kind of nice. And then we also have a gym.
There's nothing better than having your meals taken care of with work. Like when you're just not spending a whole bunch of money on food, it just really frees up your money to do other things. That was like the biggest benefit of working in a restaurant, which you cannot compare. But when you know that you're about to eat and not spend your coin on that food, my God.
I was like, oh, this is like single life. Like, I don't have to cook. I don't got nobody here. I ain't got no man. I could just eat this and I could choose what's healthy and like I know what's in it. Like, you know, so there's a lot of good. And we also have snack time, which I love as well. Like,
cool. What the hell is that?
Basically, from like 3 to 3:30, there's like a new snack every day. So like one day it would be like vegetarian samosas. The next day it'd be like empanadas. The next day it'd be like wingdings. The next day it'd be like mac and cheese bites. But their culture is really to get people out of their offices to like just talk and chat. So like
that's lovely.
Yeah. So we also have like a beverage and a snack. Yeah, so this week's Bad Boy Joy Spotlight actually is like a brand, but I'll shout out the curator of it. So the brand is Yams the Podcast. Have you ever heard of the Instagram Yams the Podcast?
I haven't.
So essentially, it is created by this guy named All Things Dante on Instagram, and he essentially creates like tastefully curated vibes for the people that love R&B. So he continuously will make playlists that are centered around like up and coming artists, vibes of like wind down R&B, like morning R&B, and it's just something that I've been really vibing with and seeing his growth. So he currently has over 260,000 followers on Instagram, and I've seen a lot of our favorite artists like Victoria Monet like talk about him or like see a lot of our favorite artists on his playlist. So he has playlists on Spotify, Apple Music, and also Tidal as well, which I don't know who still listens to that. But if you do listen
just started a free membership today.
Girl, stop it. So if you are interested in his playlist, you can go to Yams the Podcast on Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, and he has like alt R&B. He has like throwbacks. Yams like Vault is like one of them, like oldie but goodies. That's like not too old, but like things that we haven't heard in a while. Like Coco Jones, you know, she hasn't dropped an album yet. She hasn't dropped any like new stuff besides her collaborations, but like things off of her album. And then also like Yams, he updates it weekly. So like there's always new music that will be a part of the playlist.
Yeah,
so
how do you spell it?
Yams, YAMS, the playlist.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Can I get to the yams?
Yes. I think that's where it like stemmed from. And then if you all want to check out his personal page, All Things Dante on social media as well. He's also a photographer, and he also does like social strategy for like our favorite brands and such. So you all should check out Yams the Podcast on Tidal, Apple Music, and Spotify, also on Instagram, and then also All Things Dante on Instagram.
Nice. I'm excited.
Yeah, I love a good playlist. I love a good curated playlist. I love a good, like in my office, I'm always playing lo-fi vibes, and then like also when I'm in the car, I like the thrill of getting people hip to new music, like as well. Like when I'm in the car and people are like, oh, I've never heard of this. Like this all flows, and I'm like, yeah. But you all should check it out. What brought you joy this week, sister? I didn't ask you that. What brought you joy this week?
Oh, that's a good question. What did my Monday look like? Oh, this was Like the first week that I feel like I got right back into the gym, I kind of the week that I did the conference felt a little off scattered for me. Like
scat play. Sorry,
not you over here thinking about shit.
I was scat play. Sorry, girl. Sorry. Get my head out.
No,
Get my mind out
like
the gutter.
I had gone that week, but not in the intentionally like consistent way that I really enjoy. So I was feeling a little self-conscious about it. And so this week, even though I did end up catching up the week before, this week things have been going according to plan. Like I woke up this morning and went.
Yeah.
So I've been feeling really good about being on routine this week. Yeah, because today alone has been a day. So that brought me joy. That did bring me joy. I'm going to say that. The gym.
Yeah. Come on, sister.
What about you?
This week, so I think for me, my job, like I think I'm starting to get acclimated into that. And then there was also like a situation with a guy that I think I knew wasn't going to work out, but like eventually it didn't work out. And I was kind of butthurt about it in the beginning, but I think that like it was like a relief to like feel the feels and like get through the moment and just be like, this is going to happen. So I think that what brought me joy is to like release this emotion or this like feeling around this like object or idea of somebody that I knew wasn't going to work out in the end, if that makes sense. Like it's like getting rid of dead weight that you knew you're just going to have to get rid of eventually. So it's like, let's just do it now and feel the feels instead of like it getting to like Valentine's Day or like birthdays and like all of that. So the new job and then the feels of releasing something that really wasn't meant to be, but it was there lingering.
This coming on the heels of the last disaster. I don't know how to call it. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. But I don't know like if that's directly related to your dating life, but just like, I don't know, was that a date? Did you go on a date?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that being on the heels of the disaster of your date, just like, I appreciate that things are clearing out for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, are you talking about the date that we talked about offline?
I am.
Oh, girl, that is not, I didn't even talk about that. That is not, bitch, that was not even in the conversation.
I'm just saying, they may not be similar circumstances, but you are freeing yourself of both.
Oh my God, y'all, this is really going to be a detour, but it's going to come really back. I went on a horrible date, and I'm going to say it. I went on a horrible date this week, and Derwin knew the person, the thoughts of this. So, and I was just like, they may have changed. Girl, when I called Derwin, I think I called you I think I texted you late at night too, or did I call you at night, or did I?
You did both.
And I just said, bitch. And she was like, what? And I was like, I went on a date with him. And she was like, is he still whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop-it? And I was like, girl, It's worse. She was like, well.
No, it wasn't like I told you. It was
I told you. It was like, her words verbatim, y'all. She was like, he gonna die.
And like, I just know self-destruction when I see it. That's all I'm saying. Like, and it's like sad because like you hope that like people have enough intervention in their lives and enough like people who love them and that they're able to receive that love, right? That the community is saying, hey, baby, you're on the road to self-destruction, but sometimes people just can't receive it. Sometimes they can't receive it, and because community is a two-way thing, you have to foster it and then you have to maintain it. So I'm glad that we're going to be having this conversation today because I feel like a lot of what like I'm really into right now is centered around our ability to build and maintain a sense of community with the people around us as a lifeline. When people are using that word, right, a lot of it comes down to the idea of mutual aid and benefit, where like I take care of you, you take care of me, right? Which is something that happens often in like Black and then also like poor communities where the resources are not like as abundant. So like you have a sense of community for literal survival, right? So when the lights are off at my place, so I'm going to go and stay at yours for, a night or two while I figure out how to get the bill paid or get the running water, paid. and you provide me with that in your home until that happens. And that's a situation that, I've been in my childhood. So I know what community looks like in that sense. Also, the softer benefits, like the more emotional
Yeah.
benefits and the self-esteem benefits of building community,
Yeah.
and what it's like to have people around you who care enough about your well-being to hold a mirror up to you or to be clear examples of what healthy love and support look like.
This is a good conversation. We're gonna get into it. I think because community, some people have to figure out who's in their circle of community or who's in that space and like how does that look? Because I think we also have to be able to be okay with like being uh having like people tell us about ourselves or tell us about our imperfections in certain moments. And we
Yeah.
need community or we need people around that is able to, I always say, hold us accountable. Like I love my friends down, and I also want my friends to make sure like that. Now, I'm not telling them that they need to be doing this in front of motherfucking everybody, but like, because girl, no, I'm right in front of everybody. But behind closed doors, if I do something like or me and one on one, like, hey, Dev, when we were out and like you handled that situation, let's rethink about like you doing it again moving forward. Like
Sure.
I think that helps with people allowing you to be like humbled or like have like self awareness. And I think sometimes it just allows us to be human. And I think that people don't get that a lot because of the community that we choose to be around. Because some people are afraid to give criticism or like feedback.
Well, so that's the thing, right? So I'm curious about first. I always love to start with like our connotations of things. So
Yes.
like when you say the word community, how do you envision that for yourself? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I think a community is a group of people or individuals who have common interests of supporting one another in their personal, professional, daily, interpersonal lives. So for me, I was raised in a community with not just my mom and my dad, but my aunt, my grandma, and our cousins. So we all lived in we lived in the same house growing up, and we relied on one another because we knew realistically like everybody wouldn't have been able to do everything. Like there would be people that were able to fill in the gaps. So if my dad wasn't able to take care of us, my grandma would, or if like my mom wasn't able to be nurturing, my auntie would be able to be that. So I look at a community as like it is pieces to a puzzle that make an ultimate like image or a
Mm.
ultimate person, because I honestly believe that everybody has a reason or value,
Hmm.
and once you know what that is, then you're able to put that piece together.
So I mean, like it's for me, it is that sort of like it's a group of people who with shared common interests or beliefs or values, who provide a mutual aid and support to one another, as well as like a safe place for emotional and um, physical wellness, right? So I mean, and granted, we don't always know what those things look like, so we'll do
Yeah.
our best to support those with the information that we have. So not every community is going to be like ideal,
Mm-hmm.
but the idea for me about community is that it is something that promotes your survival and hopefully ultimately your thriving.
This is also like going on topic too, because have you seen that TikTok recently about the girl who like talked about like all of her like her apartment being like her community, like they all like come into like the like common area, like they cook with each other, they like hang
Oh,
out and stuff like that, and it's giving very much like the real world or like and living not living living single,
right.
um and like it's been going viral recently because as a lot of people that are not around family, as individuals who have left the nest and are out
Mm-hmm.
by themselves, I think
Mm-hmm.
we are always looking for a community. We're always looking for the chosen family or those individuals. And I think that like that was a very, very dope thing, because I think that it is harder to make and build community once you get older because, besides work, we're not in those places because of proximity anymore. Like, in college, you're around these people a lot, so you start to build community with them. Whereas, like, outside when you grow up,
Oh, you did it.
I did it. Yes. Outside of like those things, it's really, we are so ugly for that. But anyways, yeah, like finding community is like really hard, once you leave college and you have to really put, unless you like meet people at work, but then we're all different ages at work, and
I
it's
don't know, girl. I don't know because
oh, okay.
like listening to you say that the girl says in her apartment complex, which in my experience with apartment complexes is normally like it's a whole bunch of people who have nothing in common other than the fact that they live in this place together,
Yeah,
like at the same time, but they often don't talk to each other, or maybe they talk
yeah,
only to the unit next to them. I think
yeah,
it's remarkable that people found that, like, because this is what leasing agents do. They put on these events and stuff to get
yeah,
people to connect with each other, because if you have a shared interest in the building you're living in, you'll probably likely take better care of it.
yeah,
And you'll build a sense of
yeah,
community that makes people want to stay.
yeah.
I don't usually see that. And I
They
don't know if it's because of age. I don't know.
Yes. Now, I will say these individuals all look like they were the same age, under 20. Oh, sorry,
Hmm.
under 30.
Okay.
So, excuse me, I think that created a common interest with those individuals because looking at it, like, I think it was also on, I think, Spirit World or like the page. It should be somewhere. It's probably going to pop up on like TikTok or something, or just like on like the pages that go viral and stuff like that. But like they all look like they were in their 30s, under 30s. So like they weren't like, they didn't like they had kids. They looked like they were just like wanting a party and stuff like that. But I do know when my second apartment here in DC, we kind of like were the first like inaugural people to move in, and we like we like posted, somebody created like a flyer and like put it on like the bulletin where it was like everybody meet in the like common area, and we all met, and like it was like all of us were like I think around the same demographic, and we literally started to like play hide and go seek in the building. We started to like have like little potlucks because we were the first class, and
Yeah.
also the building wasn't developed yet. It was also during the pandemic, so we weren't able to really go outside, but like it was one of the first times I felt like that type of community. But no, yeah, it was really fun to like have like a sense of community, like that was like and it's really hard sometimes unless you like are very social.
So, I really wanted to talk about this because of the video last week about the young man.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember this? The
yeah.
guy,
Oh, I think you're talking about the guy in the car with the breakup.
yeah, he was like, "Oh, I never thought I'd be one of the people like crying on the internet."
I have mixed feelings about that, but
Well,
continue.
I wanted to talk about that because there were a barrage of comments from the general like Twitter sphere about this, and I was conflicted. Number one, because people aren't the best selves on Twitter, so of course they were being assholes, but also because there were some legitimate concerns there, and I had my own thoughts. I wish that no, I don't. I'm actually pretty happy that I don't take things at face value, because you see a video of someone crying on their phone telling you that they've been ghosted by someone that they were in a committed relationship with, planning a large move that's like a big life decision. They were doing that together, and then he comes home and the person's stuff is gone,
Yeah,
and there's no, what he said, was there no note?
it was the. I think he said there was no note. I don't remember the video. I think he said there was. He was basically caught off guard. He was
Right.
not prepared for it,
um
and
and so you see something like that, and your first thought is like, oh my god, you poor thing. But then maybe your second thought is like, well, wait a minute,
you didn't know. So you didn't see no
no
signs.
signs. Like, we just can't. We gotta hear it. And so there's this. You're conflicted because you want to provide empathy, which is a normal response to when someone is
Mm-hmm.
expressing some sort of signal of distress. But then you're also like, but how could we have avoided this? Or because you can't really control somebody else's behaviors. Could we have seen this coming in some way?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't fault people for having those thoughts, because even when people are expressing something that has happened to them, that's something when they've been
Yeah,
victimized or they've survived an experience, there are often signs that they say they sort of ignored or missed
yeah.
that were there.
Do you think that he was looking for community amongst us? That's why he, amongst social media, to do it,
That's
to
a good
like post it
question.
on social media? Because that's what I immediately thought was, as someone that has been in a lot of failed relationships or failed situationships. I'll be honest, I'm human.
You doing it, honey. So
Listen, I think we sometimes we go to our friends, we go to people to like, talk about the signs or talk about things because we want to, we're at a moment where we can't tell ourselves that it wasn't our fault. You know what I'm trying to say? Or I did it, I was the fault. So I think that we go to others to help us like filter out the pieces or probably help us navigate it because we are at our lowest, specifically with somebody that you loved or liked or thought this was your forever, and then you're caught off guard with like, you know, this thing. I think we do look for community to help us like big us up because we are not able to big ourselves up because we've invested all of this into this idea of somebody, if that makes sense.
All of those things make sense.
Okay.
Seeking community when you're at your lowest is one of the most human and logical, reactions. Is Twitter community? Would you go to the internet? Is the internet a place you think community would immediately support you in?
It depends on what. First of all, you also I can't. First of all, I trying to think to why the person posted it all. Girl, that's like a fucking tongue twister, a Da Vinci Code. It is, to me, you are going to get some response, good or bad. So I think it depends on your relationship because think about it. Some people can go viral for things like, for example, the girl that talked about her community. Everybody loves it, right? You don't know what people's reactions are going to be.
She wasn't seeking validation in that way. If even though she was seeking validation, because posting there is
who
what
said
that
he
is.
was though.
I think the difference is the space he was in before he got there, right? So coming to seeking community to support and praise something that you did that you feel good about. My hope is that you feel good enough about it that if people do give you these disparaging remarks, so you're kind of like, well, whatever, y'all. I'm happy. I'm sharing with y'all something cool I did. But coming to the internet from a place of need is tricky.
But we don't know that's what he did that for.
I don't.
Because listen, with the video, he never was like, let me know your thoughts in the comments. He was like, hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you all and let you all know that like, and I don't know why he did it. We don't know why he did it.
Right. And because I'm not trying to put that on him. And I don't even really want to give off the idea that I'm judging him for his decision to do so. Right. Like, or that I'm judging that was what it was. What brought it to my attention, or what really sort of clicked and made me think about what community actually is and where we can find it, was one of the responses that someone gave in response to how people were responding. Reacting. I just used response 3 times in a sentence.
Response.
He so someone was like, it is a shame that y'all could not lead with empathy. Fine. This man came online, on here expressing that something horrible had happened to him, and instead of being empathetic, y'all have blamed him and judged him, and like, I hope that y'all do better moving forward. And if you were talking to me 4 or 5 years ago, I think I would have that same mindset. Because I would be disturbed first by people being so apathetic when someone is clearly in distress. But I actually do not have that response today because I've been on Twitter now for 10 11
10 years, 10, 11 12, years. Yeah.
12 years? Yes, for about 12, 13 years. So I've seen the pattern that people exhibit, and I think Twitter at this point has its own reputation. That, I mean, it would be foolish to think that. And I don't know that the boy posted it to Twitter. I don't even remember what kind of video, what platform he posted it to first. It just made its way to
probably
Twitter.
TikTok. I think it's probably TikTok.
And I thought to myself, you as a person who is responding to this are acting surprised by people who discuss HIV as if like people who acquire it are villains. You're looking for a sense of warmth and compassion in a place where there is very little. I'm not going to say that there are none, but people do not present the best of themselves. Twitter does not have a history or a reputation of being a therapist's office in which people can come to tell something awful about that they've experienced and then immediately receive the most compassionate responses. Most of the time they get people showing their asses, right?
Yeah, I think it also just depends on like the demographic too. Like people post to like also you have to think about like people's community in this more digital age, digital world, people are now posting to people on social media like they are their best friends. Like people will create like get ready with me. Like kids are now being like, "Hey y'all, watch me get ready for work," and like people be like, "Girl, why you doing that with your face?" Or like, "Oh my god, I love this." Like we are in now a culture where we are specifically with the Kardashians starting it off. Like we are now investing in people's lives that we don't even know the full story with. And I think for me, this is starting to become a thing because like my mindset about it is like it's people's responding to it. It's going to be this is on social media. Like I think like maybe he wanted to like get this to the guy since he ghosted him. Maybe like it was just like he's probably already a content creator, and I think it's just like people. What community looks like for certain people is very different. I think it also depends on what
I don't buy that.
community is built.
I don't
You
buy
don't
that.
buy it?
I don't buy
Okay.
that because that sounds pseudo to me, right? Like
Uh,
when we talk about community, I'm talking about real effects. So this is why. So I think social media has done such a weird thing to how we
yeah.
view what community is. Because sure, people can say nice things to you online, right? But unless these people are sending you like money for your bills when you're in need, or sitting and talking with you for hours, and I'm not saying that these things don't exist or don't, but like start out from relationships that people have on the internet. But I do think somehow it's gotten skewed
Yeah.
because you can get the kind of validation you think you need on social media in these bursts, right? But
Yeah.
if these people aren't actually dedicating real time and putting real effort into each other off the
Yeah.
platform, right? Like, okay, so we text, we phone call, we spend hours on the phone talking to and supporting each other. I know what's happening in your personal life. I am someone you call when you need advice or when you just want someone to listen to you. That's what community is to me if we're talking about it in a virtual sense. But people
Right.
just like tweeting at you and like making jokes with you, that's not the same thing. And it saddens me that we think that people owe that to each other in spaces where it is evident that you're not likely to get that in large droves. You know what I mean? Am I
Yeah.
making sense here?
You're making sense. I think it's just because your definition of community is not what everybody believes is community now, which I
But
do not agree with. I think it's because you have like some people don't even like have genuine friends if you think about it. Like you have to think about like people don't have friends that will hold them accountable or will see them, or like we have friends that we just go out to the club with. So it's just like we really have to take into consideration is what does community look like on a surface level to
mm,
certain people, because you have a very very healthy version of community. You know what community looks like, what it feels like, but you also have to understand some people may not know or has experienced what healthy community looks like. So they're going to people that don't even know them to give them opinions that don't even know who they are outside of it, if that makes
mm.
sense. So
No,
that's my
absolutely.
only pushback is we have to understand that community is subjective now because there's so many outlets now that we can build community. We can create friends that we've never met in real life, but because they are complimenting on us on our pictures, and they're sending things in our DMs, we are now feeling like these people are our people because they get what I'm putting out there, not who I really am, but what I am showing on social media.
That's
So we
interesting.
now need to get into that conversation because it's the digital world. Like again, we don't know what that situation relationship was before the boy posted it. We
Yeah,
don't know what these things are, but we see it and we either have a healthy response or a negative response. It's just the toxicity and also the like emotions of social media and what community really has now or impact in us, because you can get community from anywhere, but is it the right type of community?
well, I think that's kind of what's frustrating me
Mm-hmm.
is because I think we don't all have to have the same version of it, but I do think that our version of it has to work.
Yeah.
It has to work for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my frustration is coming from, is that like if your version of community doesn't actually substantiate like results, um then it isn't a working definition.
Do you
And
go
yeah,
ahead?
go ahead.
Yeah. Do you feel like you had that community in the beginning? Do you feel like you always had this like understanding or this healthy depiction of community? Do you feel like it was a gradual thing, or did you immediately feel like this is community, this is what I need? Because that's the tricky part is we are all on this self-development journey,
Yeah.
right? So we have to take acknowledge and accountability that like our journeys are different. Like I'm still grappling with validation from others.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I might keep people in my circle because they might validate me, but they might not, be that friend that I genuinely need, if that makes sense. So like we're all on different levels. So I just want to know, like, when did you feel like, or when did you know that you were going into this like healthy definition or trajectory of like what a community should be, blatant, like surface level wise?
Well, I feel first that like I haven't always had a full understanding that that's what it was. Like I didn't always know that, oh, what I have here is a community. Because what was important to me, what has always been important to me, was having a good relationship with people that made me feel good. And I knew when I didn't. So I was like, okay, this relationship makes me feel good about myself. This one does not. Why? Right? But again, I grew up in spaces where sometimes like there were bills that were not able to be paid. Like at some point my mother was single and she had 2 kids. At another point she was putting herself through a master's program with 3 kids. And she was like the primary breadwinner, and so there would be times when we wouldn't be home.
Yeah.
So what community looked like at that point was somebody giving enough of a fuck about us to be like, hey, come to my home, take a shower or whatever, or hey, stay at my place for a while. And I knew at the very least that there was this sense of, if there is a need that we're struggling to meet on our own, that somebody cares enough to provide that. Okay. So that was always the baseline thing, is like when people are in need, community helps fill that need.
Yeah.
And I think as in a lot of Black communities, that's what it often looks like. I've talked to a lot of Black people for whom that it does look that way.
Yeah.
I think as I got older, the friends I needed and the friends that I wanted were both people who made me feel good about who I was at that point, but also people who would tell me the truth in ways that facilitated my growth. But that's just like how I was wired.
Yeah. I think that like family community and like friendship community has also kind of like been difficult to like differentiate, because think about it, our friends come and go. Our friendships, some friendships are seasonal.
Yeah.
Some friendships are for a community of like literally like when you go into college, like this is my community because we all live in the same space and we all, really do these things. But then when we're not in that space, the community is tested, because then it's like, how do we keep this, together? So I think that it sometimes has to fluctuate depending on what you need at the time, if that makes sense. I think that community is always different. Like, this is me being transparent. Like, for example, like I have you as community, and I have like Tiffany and I have Vari and stuff like that. But there have been moments where I feel like I am lonely because it's not this, and it's also maybe something personal. It's probably something personal, is that validation. Like, I could talk to somebody like, oh, I'm so lonely. I don't have nobody that talks to me. And it's like, girl, you can literally call Tiffany. You can literally call Derwin. But like, I'm in this space that I do not have community. So I think that sometimes it depends on like our connection to community and our connection with ourselves, that we know that we have resources that are at our disposal, but we haven't disposed of it because we're so in this instant gratification probably mindset.
I think you're right about that. I think, but that's the sort of thing I think I would, because what you've described, that loneliness, is a feeling that I think is safe to say everyone feels. There's the human condition to feel lonely, right? And I will, especially if I'm depressed, I will convince myself that I don't have community. That's like the biggest part of my overcoming or being able to fight depression, is that depression is going to tell me that the community I have isn't enough, that they're not going to support me in this, and that like my work in my own investment in my health is to fight that feeling by actionably reaching out to someone and saying, hey, I'm actually going through something difficult. And hopefully they've proven to me through the time and time again, right, that they are someone who I can trust with that emotion. And I think part of being able to build that definition is therapy,
Mm-hmm.
because therapy will tell you, like I had a therapist tell me, because I was like, I don't trust people off jump. And they're like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't. You're
Yeah.
supposed to enjoy getting to know someone who proves time and time again that they are trustworthy and that
Yeah.
you should give them your trust, right?
Yeah.
And even if they falter, let's look at what they have been for you over the course of how long you've known them, and
Mm-hmm.
does the good outweigh the bad? And to bring it to that, back to the young man, I think we didn't have a lot of information, and the questions that rose up for me were, how has this person been for you over the years, right? What has been the context of your
Mm.
relationship? Because have there been signs beforehand that this person was not fully connected to you in the way that you were to them? Because what I never wanted to do and what I don't want to do now is victim blame this individual,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
it, ghosting someone that you've been in a relationship with is fucked up. Like, that is wrong, right? Um, but then, if part of doing the work of healing from that and recovering is like, okay, how much did I show up for myself
Yeah.
throughout the course of this relationship? And showing up for myself means being present and being honest with myself about the flags that were there, the yellow flags, the red flags.
Yeah.
I heard him say, like, I loved him unconditionally, and I believe that to be a truth. Was he appreciative of that love? Did he
Mm.
show signs of understanding the value of it? Were there ever times when he retreated and you had to do more work, and it was like, this person may not be ready for this
Yeah.
love? You know what I mean?
I get that. I also think of, you know, did this person not have community that wasn't on social media that he could talk to about?
Bingo.
That's a question that I have, is like,
Bingo.
you know, were there no other resources or outlets for you to talk about this internally? Uh, because I think that we are now in this digital age that easily go to social media for validation, and we don't realize that people have different perceptions of things at their disposal. So
Yeah.
my mindset is, what community looked like for him,
Mm-hmm.
and and did was this the most appropriate for him?
I wondered myself if, like, if they had a healthy relationship with their family, and if they had a healthy set of friends. Because the question you're asking now is a question that I asked. Actually, I was having this conversation with my friend Javier, because I was like, how do we get to a point where we feel the need? Because even he had said he did. It kind of seemed like he didn't know why he
Mm-hmm.
was reaching out. He was like, it's making me feel better for some reason, right? So these are
Mm-hmm.
the questions that we have to ask ourselves, because we need to have answers for it, to figure out how we can make things
Yeah.
better for ourselves. Has he been ostracized from his family, by his family? Has he been able to build the right kinds of supportive friendships that put a person in a position to see their own value, or maybe that are enough of a mirror to be like, oh, well, my friend was in a situation like this, and they were like, their partner, you know, was flighty or was
Yeah.
abusive in these ways, and they saw those signs in my partner. Because abandoning someone in that way is also a form, like, that's abusive,
Yeah.
consistently. But that is not a healthy thing to do to someone. It is
Yeah.
harm. It causes harm.
Yeah.
So did my partner resemble or show signs that my friend's old partner had? And do I have someone close enough to me to be like, hey, I know what that looks like in my life? You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I mean, I want to come down from the energy I had earlier,
Yeah.
because I'm passionate about this.
Yeah. No, I get
And
it.
I imagine that it almost seems judgmental, but I think,
I don't know.
if
Yeah.
at the baseline for me, I want everyone to be well. And it frustrates me how often people who look like us and who experience the things we experience, how they haven't been provided the circumstances and the resources to identify when something is bad for them and when something is good for them, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they have to learn through circumstances like this, and not through talking to our elders.
Mm-hmm.
We lost an entire generation of gay men who could have been providing this information to us. Because that's another thing of what community looks like. It looks like having elders, like
Mm-hmm.
people who have been through life. We
Experience.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
trying to figure this out all on our own. There's an entire this is how villages function, right? There are
Yeah.
people who are wise, who have lived, who can say, young man or young woman, like
Mm-hmm.
this is full, and give you some wise anecdote, some
Yeah.
wise little story. You know how they always got them little what's good for the
Stores.
goose is good for the gander. It's
Uh-huh.
not so fun when the rabbit's got the gun. All those little colloquialisms.
Yeah.
If we have the right community, we have people who can provide those things to give us some context about life.
Do you feel that community can be subjective?
I am not willing to accept a definition of community that does not result in or have healthy consequences.
Mm.
Because I don't need to. That's what I'm saying. Your definition of community doesn't have to be the same as mine, but it needs to yield similar results.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, I think at the end of the day, community should be about you all coming together to uplift, support, praise one another.
that's right.
And I think that once individuals figure that as the core and start to be able to create boundaries
Hmm.
in certain spaces, then I
Mm-hmm.
think this conversation of community will start to go into that spearheading of what its original basis is. I think now people think that community is getting likes and getting comments that, of things that you are telling them about. But like, again, like I said, community to me is like, I need like me and Tiffany kiki about some stuff, and Tiffany's like, "Girl, that was wrong, and you need to like clean it up," or like, not always being like, "Deborah, yes, you ate that up." Like, no, girl, you could have done that differently. And I think that like we sometimes don't create those healthy spaces because sometimes we don't know a lot about ourselves enough to know what community should be, or how we deserve to be, or how we should have people in our spaces. Like some people want yes men in their community, you know.
Oh, it's so funny that you said that because you know who I think of when I hear that?
Ooh, who you hear about,
I
sister?
thought of Nicki Minaj. I
Oh
thought because
Jesus, this bitch. Foot. Girl, it's so funny. I'm Team Megan right now. I don't care, but it is literally lie on your dead mama, lie on your dead mama, lie on your dead mama, lie on your dead mama. I was like, oh my god, Nikki, stop, you old hag. The
oh
barbs are
man,
gonna kill me.
they
The barbs are
are.
gonna kill me.
They
They're
are
at my
on the
door right now.
corner.
They
They
hear
are.
it.
No, but like King of Reeds, Justin said this. Um, they're like, where are her friends? Like, why did no one who cares about you say, "Hey, baby, you going out bad on this live for this long and tweeting and ranting this long?" Because your fans are going to tell you what they want, right? Fans are not community. Fans are not community. Those people are telling you what you want to hear because they're obsessed with you or
They're gonna be
because
yes
they
men and
want you to
women,
invite
people.
them into your life. They're living in a fantasy. They're having a fantasy connection with you. Your relationship with them is fantasy. Community is not fantastical.
It's
It
not. It's not gonna be
is
always
not
perfect. It's not gonna be
fantasy.
always
It
perfect.
is everything but perfect.
Yeah.
I've said that it leads to your well-being, that it is conducive to your health and your wellness, right? But the reality too of community is that it is made up of humans, so they're
Mm-hmm.
not always going to get it right.
Yeah.
We're not always going to get it right. Those of us who will participate in community, we will fail over
Mm-hmm.
and over again. But the intention is there. The intention of I'm going to support you in your
Yeah.
wellness. So when it really matters,
Yeah.
you can say these people have supported me.
I mean, your community is ultimately those people that pick you up when you're down.
Yeah.
Your community is those individuals when they see you at your lowest, they will help you brick by brick. Like so many of our friends, like, my relationships, I cry to y'all. I talk about it. And y'all like, okay, girl, feel it. Get it out. Okay, bitch, let's get it. Let's move about. Like let's get out of this rut because you have so much more to offer. You have, these are the things that we can do to help you get out of the space. I think community
Yeah.
really is about knowing what's best for somebody, letting them do feel their feels, and like also just being like, let's get up out of here. Like let's
Yeah.
like, and I think that sometimes we don't get that. Sometimes we don't, like, a lot of issues nowadays is like people's community is so murky because of like intentions with it. Like even in like the celebrity industry, like you could have an entourage or community and people inside of that could be snakes. And like we are so confused on people's intentions now because community has been so subjective that we kind of like don't even know how to be genuine or authentic because we're afraid of what somebody will do inside of our own space. It also goes back to childhood, right? It was your own family, the ones that were dragging you instead of the people that were outside.
Good point.
So community it's a thing, but I think we need to understand how to debunk or like restart or revisit this conversation because it is very like we need to like people need to know like these are some signs of healthy communities or these some signs of girl you might have to like clean out the weeds.
Well, this is why I wanted to have the conversation because I was like,
Yes.
I truly did feel like the person calling on the general population of Twitter to provide the kind of community that person
It
needed
ain't the
was foolish.
space.
I was like, this is not the
It's
place you're
not
going
the
to find it.
space.
I'm not telling you that your hope that people would be empathetic is silly. It's not. We all wish. We don't all. I also wish. I also wish that the people in who share the queer and black identity on this platform were able to rally around each other and be like, hey, I know this is a tough experience for you and we want to support you. You deserve better. Here are some therapy resources. Do you have food? Do you need money for rent?
These
Do
bitches
you
will
need
leave
these things?
you for
These girls
shit. I think it's we live in a society of judgment and now people's opinions are so deep. Like in like Latin communities, they still are community focused. Like I still see that to
yes.
this day that our
Yes.
Latin brothers and sisters, baby, it'll be 17 of them in a 2-bedroom house and baby, they will be living it up, and like be still looking optimistic into the world. And we can't even get people to in our own black communities even sometimes even like repost a like reshare something or like go to an event, but also sometimes that goes into like the quality of shit because sometimes black people be trying to cheap you out, girls be trying to tell you that you got to come with your hair done already. It's girl.
Good point. Well, okay, so I because for the record, I'm not quite yet ready to wrap up. But there's
I know.
another. This brings me to how money plays a role in this because I was talking to
Access.
this guy that I have been talking to, and he mentioned that so for people like Nicki Minaj, when you acquire a certain amount of capital, when you have reached a certain level of wealth, community seems to lose its importance.
Yeah,
And
because you
even
can
a
buy
better
bitches now.
example. Okay, and I think he was even arguing that it's deeper than that. That you just you don't see yourself as needing community in the same ways. My friend
Yeah.
Javier said this as well because Kanye is a great example. That when that like community makes sense to people. For instance, for immigrants, it makes sense for them to move here and start communities because they're in a new place. They need each other for survival.
Yeah.
The whole point of community at that point is a need based thing. But
Yeah.
when you're able to meet your needs individually on an individualistic
People are disposable.
level, people are disposable. I simply don't need you because my meals are not in danger. My lights are not in danger. I can buy whatever I want. I
And
don't need
that's
you for
the
shit.
issue that I have is that you can be having all this money and still be lonely. And unfortunately, we've seen that in society with a lot of celebrities having all this money and still committing suicide.
Baby, you said it so I didn't have to.
Yeah. So it's just like that money can only go so long when you're literally in this pool full of money with nobody around and it's just quiet. Nothing.
I think that means
You,
that community has to be multi-level for all of us. It
it
isn't. It
does.
simply isn't needs based, or at least it isn't in our physical needs only, or in
No,
our monetary needs.
I feel like to me, community is so emotionally based because without community, sometimes you will be spiraling. Like
Mm.
you literally, some people maybe this person can talk you out of like, girl, I went through this as well, and this is how I got out of it. Like I think that's what also with social media. Some people go to that because people can be if it's healthy go into the
Mm.
comments and be like, okay, these are some tactics because my mindset was maybe the guy went to them people my intentions they are like, oh, you're going to get over it, this happened to me before, these are some tips and tricks that I've went through. Like I think that like that could be a thing, but I think it's more so like that emotional space. And I think that like when you don't have the
Mm.
right community around, and also when you feel like you don't need community because you got all this money, you are taking away this like the mental health and emotional health of to me it's like like a village raises like a tribe raises a child, and like two is always better than one. Like
Yeah.
statistically, when you're like having a partners, you last longer because it's two of you are helping each other out financially, emotionally, instead of like you doing all these things on your own. It's just you.
I think my concern is that like their virtual reality, virtual interactions are so tricky.
Hmm.
And
That's why the pandemic really quick fucked a lot of people up as well.
no, you're absolutely right about that. And there were people who were able to find a healthy sense of community in the right spaces, virtual, when the only thing we had was virtual interactions, right? But I
Hmm.
think as our overall society changes, as people are struggling more, right, financially, as we see more and more news reports of like difficult and like awful things happening, an entire genocide. Um, People are angsty and they're
Hmm.
angry and they're looking for spaces to get all of that out. And the most logical place for a lot of people is the place that doesn't have any physical consequences, i.e., online. So
Hmm.
people are quicker to snap at each other than they are maybe in person, and people are still snapping in person. But it seems to me like a time like
Hmm.
this where things are super tense, your physical interactions with people and your immediate community, your physical community is more important than ever because there
Yeah.
are what we are actually living are the physical consequences of our changing society,
Yeah.
right?
That is
So
true.
it's not going to be enough that people are telling you, it's going to be okay in the comments because you're going to have to close out of that phone at some point. You're going to have to
Yeah.
put that phone up and you have to go
Yeah,
down.
we're gonna put that phone up, Bookie.
Okay, you're going to have to go downstairs
When you turn off that camera, who's there with who's there?
and you're going to have to put food on the stove or
Yeah,
I'll take it out of the refrigerator, put it in a bowl, and I hope you got a bowl to put it in.
yeah.
I hope you
That
got food to put in the bowl.
yeah. That gives me like a dark mirror episode, with social society and community, because it's like you create this world. Like that's what I remember we used to like how those like chat the chat messages and like
Mm-hmm.
we used to do like Millsbury.
I
Shout out to the
MVU and
kids.
shit. I
IMVU.
did
We
love
we
Millsbury.
used to create these even like right now with like dating apps. Like you can build community um, out of those spaces. Like but I think also like community can be also impactful because community can evolve change.
Yes.
Like if you band people together and they have like the same agenda, mission, shit can pop off. But people need to be aware of like community in a digital age. There's
Yes.
so many subjectiveness and so many ulterior motives. Some people are intentionally wanting to
Mm-hmm.
troll. Some people
Mm-hmm.
are intentionally wanting to be helpful. Some people are being over here being, just negative Nancy's. So we have
Mm-hmm.
to like really be, because that's what like with like, and I know I love Drag Race, like the in Housewives, it's the fans, it's the
Mm-hmm.
trolls that like
Yeah.
will take people out because those communities will go so crazy. And these are like like the Barbs and the Hive and all that. So
Well, it's because of access, like the same reasons that make it appealing, right? That there's like, oh, I can reach a larger number of people by putting this online because it's so easy to share. So I might get the outpouring of love that I'm looking for. The same can be said in the opposite. Yeah, it's a consequence that you can reach more people. So you can reach more people who are like who have a vendetta to settle, right? Or who are like,
yeah,
I'm angry and I want something to be outraged about. So you might get what you're looking for, but then you might also, on the other hand, either get the exact same amount or possibly more of what you're not looking for and what you don't need. So I think that there can be benefits from like getting or having that community in social media. I mean, I'm a product of our age. I've also grown up in the beginning formations
of
of social
technology.
interactions. I
Bitch, me too,
find
girl. Don't be trying to
value.
act like I'm not.
Right, no, exactly. We came up during this age, so it's not as if I'm some
Yeah.
old, you know, out of touch person. Even if even if some of my perspective about this feels out of touch, what I think has happened is I've been able to see the benefits of social media when I didn't have any other community.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a queer baby, when I was a little gay bee, the
Yeah.
only interactions I had with other queer people was virtual.
Yeah.
The
Because
only
we didn't
thing I
have it.
had
We didn't have it. Yeah.
So I'm not arguing that it has no value. What I am
Yeah.
arguing is that we cannot forsake our immediate physical possibilities of community for the virtual ones, because I don't think that we will find salvation or health or
Mm-hmm.
wellness in that alone. We have to always remember that we have physical bodies and physical surroundings, and those things cannot be ignored.
That is true. We have to acknowledge what I think that also comes from like reframing our mind as well as I think some people go to virtual spaces because they don't physically feel like, they have people here. I mean, in real life, so it's just like, with social media, you choose what you want to put out so you can create this illusion. And then, like, in real life, it's what you are without the camera. Like, my favorite line is, "Who are you
Yeah.
when nobody's watching?"
Who
I love
are
that.
you?
You
And I
when
go ahead and
no
sing it, sister.
one's
Every
watching.
time I hear it, I think you.
Yeah. That's me, girl. But no, I think that we also need to understand that we need to develop healthy communities around us and also
Hmm.
develop healthy selves so that we know what healthy communities look like outside of this digital age. Because again, we are able to manipulate, we are able to access so many people now. And sometimes you're going to not get the not so nice things because bitches is trolls.
Yeah, and I mean, you can also. Someone brought this up to me because I remember being on Jacked at some point, and
Whore. That's what you were doing, looking for dick.
I got
Looking
my
for
A sister. Call me Hester
Scarlet
Prynne. Call
Letter.
me Hester Prynne. Um, no,
Oh,
but I was like, I prefer meeting men in person because I can better discern. Like, I'm like, people pretend to be whoever they want to online, and he was like, well, people can pretend in person, and I was like, I was blessed with discernment.
look, bitch, you ate that up. I'll be like,
So
bitch, you ate that up, but
you can try that. Like, you
yeah.
can try to pretend to be somebody, but I see you. And unless you're a sociopath, and I mostly can tell that too, you're not gonna get one over on me. You cannot
Cannot
trick
trick
me.
me. You cannot trick me. You're a good one.
Hopefully, I pray, because
And girl,
people get crafty.
some people have came through the weeds on my end, and I'm like, girl, I got to get
I,
stronger.
I'm not going to pretend that trial and error isn't also part of why I have discernment. Okay, I was not born with all the discernment needed.
I
I
can't
had to
stand you,
kiss a
bitch.
couple
I
frogs to
cannot
get
stand
here.
you, bitch. I had to go through a little bit of murky water to get to the green grass. I don't know what that analogy is. When I heard that you have to kiss a couple of frogs to get to the good, like you got to kiss a good, I was like, girl, that is not my motto. I don't want to do that. I don't want to kiss all
Uh,
these damn frogs,
Girl, you've
bitch.
been kissing lots of frogs, so I don't know whether you want to or not is unimportant because you have. That's no
Girl.
shade. The truth can never be shade, honey.
I mean, girl, it's the truth. And I've definitely kissed a lot of frogs, bitch. I might have, what is it? What's the disease that frogs have?
Oh, I don't know. I know people get warts from them, or
Yeah,
that's like what
bitch, I
people
got,
used to say they would
I'm
get warts.
surprised. You get
You
warts,
warded
girl.
up, sister.
I am worded up. Bum, 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 bum. That's why I quit. Okay. Okay.
Oh my god.
Well, I think this is a healthy conversation. I think this is just like dialogue that like needs to be had, and also just like about community and what it looks like virtually in person, how we've developed community, and like what are some things that we can take away, and our listeners can take away to create that sense of community. Because again, this mindset of it is subjective, but like it really
Yeah.
should be about you all uplifting each other and creating those opportunities to um, propel or elevate, or get to the next thing. Because if you don't got people around you helping you doing that, you really can't just do that by yourself.
I'd be curious to know what other people's definitions of community are and what it has looked like for them. Because again, I'm even open for people telling me, because I know someone on my timeline, I think his name is Antonio, said that they were doing research about people who have been able to build physical positive community from the
Mm.
interactions on Twitter. So I'd be interested to hear people who actually have some healthy form of that, what it looks like and how they built it. Um, Especially those of us who are in their 20s and late 20s and who grew up in the digital age.
Yeah, I would love, yeah, write us, like, talk to us on our socials and things like that to get engaged in the conversation because we love to hear from you all. But of course, we are wrapping up. We have been doing this for a while. The girls have to get their beauty rest. We love talking to y'all, but girl, we got to get off. But As you all know, if you would like to continue the conversation with moi, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at _Lord Every _LORD EVERY. I'm also probably going to be on a Tinder in your space soon. I'm just like, if you see me on Tinder, don't be a stranger, girl. I am traveling around the world in 80 days on Tinder. I'm just playing. I'm not. And what about you, sister?
You guys know you can find me on Instagram at Derwin King. That's DERWINKING. And on Twitter at Free Negro. That's FREENEGREAUX.
And if you all would like to talk to us on the podcast platform, you can follow us on Instagram at That Black Boy Joy Pod, and you can follow us on Twitter at That Black Boy Joy. You can watch us on on YouTube at That Black Boy Joy. And if you would like to write into us, you get us up at That Black Boy Joy Podcast at gmail.com. As we always tell you all, please be so in love with who you are.